I guess we'll call the meeting to order. It is a few minutes. Yeah, it's 1:01. We'll call the meeting to order and ask Beth, would you please take the roll call? And again, I want to thank Beth for saving me. The last 10 minutes was kind of hectic trying to find a link. So thanks, Beth.
No problem. Trustee Flood,
Here?
Trustee Riley,
Here.
Trustee McMahon,
Here.
Trustee Eames,
Here.
Trustee Loring,
Here.
Trustee Worth,
Here.
Trustee Michaud.
Here.
There you are.
Thank you. We have a quorum, and I guess I would remind people to leave their mics off when they're not speaking. I don't think we really have to do that anymore, but that's what my paper says, so that's what I did. Could I have a motion, please, for the Human Resources Labor Relations Committee of the Board of Trustees to go into executive session under the provisions of 1 MRSA Section 4056A to discuss the evaluation of personnel and the consideration and discussion of appointments, evaluations, employment, and duties, and 1 MRSA Section 4056D to discuss planning for negotiations and communications with AFM, UMSA, EXIM, Police, PETFA, and Service and Maintenance Units. Could I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Have a motion and a second. Beth, would you please take the roll call?
Trustee Flood,
Yes?
Trustee Riley,
Yes.
Trustee McMahon,
Yes.
Trustee Eames,
Yes.
Trustee Loring,
Yes.
Trustee Worth,
Yes.
Trustee Michaud.
Yes.
We'll move you into executive session.
Thanks. Okay, looks like everybody is here for the public meeting. Welcome to everyone. And we have just 3 items for the public session of the Human Resource Labor Relations Committee for the Board of Trustees. And today, the first item was for me to comment about the fact that we annually do a board chair evaluation. And I just wanted to report publicly that we have started that process. We started in January, we concluded in March. And this year, we're going to do it just a little bit differently because our board chair, the good Chair Riley, is serving her last term. So there's no sense in us going back and doing a full board review of that. We're going to try to broaden the review somewhat. And I just wanted to make sure that public knew that we were doing our duty, and we'll do the task on time. And that's all I really needed to say there. Any other questions from the board members? Didn't think so. Thank you. Our other topic is, our second topic is labor relations update. And we'll ask Vice Chancellor Dorsey to begin that process, and there are other people who will be joining her on that as well. So Vice Chancellor Dorsey.
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, I will turn it over to, for the next 2 tabs, tab 2 and 3, I will ask Ryan Whitlock and Susan Cameron to give the labor relations update. And then following that, Amy Parker will give an update on some of our strategic plan efforts under the HR/LR area. So Ryan?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I had 2 key labor topics that I wanted to update everybody on today. So first, as everyone's aware, we had our first labor agreement with the UMaine Graduate Worker Union ratified on December 17th. Our board authorized the approval of that agreement during the January board meeting, and that agreement was fully executed on January 28th. So what that does is that allows UMS to now move into an implementation phase of that contract. So the labor relations team has been meeting with key stakeholder groups regularly to prioritize each of the provisions and how we implement those. One of those key stakeholder groups includes the union executive board. So we've been meeting with them on a biweekly basis, keeping them updated on that process. So I feel like things are moving along quite well, but it's a process that we're continued to remain focused on each day. Second thing I wanted to update the group on is regarding the part-time faculty labor agreement. So that agreement is set to expire on September 1st of 2026. So the labor relations team and the PATFA executive board have been in contact with each other to start to explore scheduling dates to begin negotiations, which we would expect to happen sometime in late spring. And we would expect those negotiations to continue throughout the summer. So that's what I had for today's update. Thank you.
Are there any questions? If not, Amy, would you like to move on with yours?
Yes, thank you. So I have been in this role now for about 18 months and time just flew by. And I feel as though sometimes in these meetings, I have the opportunity to tell you about how we've been putting out fires. And I wanted to share a little bit about the time that I've spent sort of reflecting on the last 18 months and thinking about how we're going to move HR forward. So last summer, we had the opportunity to pull the full HR team from across the state together for the first time in what I think was 7 or 8 years. And it was some really valuable time to just think about how we plan for the future. And I brought to the team 5 key areas that we want to support and strengthen within the HR organization based on my observations and my experience, quite frankly, with HR over the last 7 or 8 years in other roles. So the areas of focus that we are thinking about moving forward with are, the first one is leadership and management development. And so we are hearing very clearly from our managers that there are key areas that they are lacking experience or skills in. And this may be because somebody is a really great performer, they move into a management role, and maybe they're really not adequately prepared for those roles. And what I love about this is that we have managers reaching out to us and saying, here's what we need to close those skills gap, which is really exciting. The next piece would be organizational culture. And this really comes out of, I think, the way that we need to think about change in our organization. I think we can all recognize, really since the pandemic, that change is not a one and done. We are constantly going to be in a state of change. And that's something that our culture really has to adjust to. So we've been talking about how do we get people more comfortable with change? How do we communicate better about change? And have really been engaging in some work amongst our team, just educating ourselves about sort of the impact of change on our employees. The third area of focus is HR technology. And for me, this means how to responsibly use AI and use the tools that we already have in place. So this is not looking for the next magic software solution. It is really working with what we have and maximizing the use of the tools that we have. I mentioned change management. That is our 4th initiative. And again, that's really about educating people about what does that mean and how do we move forward in an organization in which stability is not really what we're looking for, right? It's really just the ability to pivot and adapt to a rapidly changing world. And then finally, career management and mobility. So we want to balance bringing in really good talent from outside with developing talent inside our organization. And one of the ways that we are thinking about doing that is making sure or evaluating areas in our organization that we potentially have what I call single points of failure. So if this person were in a car accident and needed to be out tomorrow, what would be at risk within the organization? So thinking about how to develop more, a deeper bench within the HR organization. So to that end, we've been trying to focus all of our projects within those areas of focus, recognizing that the day-to-day work also has to continue. So I think despite how public and I will admit challenging it has been, one of our, I think, great successes in the past year has been the labor teams bringing the first collective bargaining agreement with the graduate student workers. And there are a lot of opportunities within those 5 areas of focus as we move forward with that unit, helping to educate our supervisors, thinking about opportunities from within the organization. We're also thinking about how can we build our learning and organizational development just within the team that we have. So we have a really great initiative going on in partnership with some of our unions to refresh and potentially modernize our approach to performance management, which I'm really excited about. There are 2 schools of thought about performance management. We do not have a pay for performance structure, and that has led some people to believe that performance management is not important. And what I can tell you is that to an employee that doesn't get a performance review, it is important because they are left feeling uncertain, and that feedback is really important to them. So we really want to think about how we refresh that structure. And if I could move into employee health and wellness, just to give you an update, I think it's no secret that the last few months were a little challenging with our transition. We had the unfortunate timing. We thought moving to Anthem was going to be just this great, well-received change, and the unfortunate timing with Northern Light Health did not help that. But I am happy to say that we have transitioned successfully as of January 1st to Anthem for our healthcare management and CapRx for our prescription management. And if I could just share just a few data points. We've issued, in partnership with Anthem, over 8,300 cards to our members. We've processed thousands of prior authorizations. So one of our commitment was that largely if people had healthcare that they were in process, that their prior authorizations would carry over. I will say none of this is perfect. We will always have some people that encounter challenges, and when those come up, we are escalating them, I think, successfully with Anthem. In the month of January, we processed over 4,500 prescription claims, which is pretty substantial given the new system. And there were about 150 employees called in and got a response within 16 seconds, and 97% of those calls or inquiries were solved on the first call. So I feel like for the barriers that came up, they were resolved pretty successfully and pretty quickly. Again, understanding that nothing's perfect, and we have a few individuals that we're working through some challenges with in partnership with our administrators. And finally, we are still working through how to support the organization best in complying with Title II, which is really about advancing accessibility for our community. And while it's a compliance issue, I really want to make sure that we stay focused on the purpose of this initiative. And I will also say that this is really, we spend a lot of time focusing on what this looks like in the classroom, but this is also a big change for our staff and our administrators, because it's really everything that we touch on a daily basis, because we're in a digital world. So we're working really hard to make sure that employees have access to the tools that they need to update those non-academic materials as well. And then finally, on the UMS strategic plan, I would like to just provide some thoughts on the service action number 1, which is identifying ways to support faculty, staff, and administrators seeking to serve Mainers in Maine communities through outreach and projects and related activities. So one of the areas that I think is missing for this initiative is data. I don't think we adequately have ways to capture what our employees are doing in this regard to serve the community. And so I think one of the first things that we need to think about is exploring methods to capture this data so that we have something to measure as we move forward. So that's something that I'm thinking about as we move forward this year. Those are my updates for HR. Are there any questions? Chair Riley?
Great report, Amy. Thank you for all your work. You said that Anthem grandfathered in the prior authorization?
Yes.
And that's great. That's great for our employees. For a set period, or is it just?
So it was anybody that had a prior authorization in place at the time that we transitioned, they were supposed to transition that prior authorization.
But I assume that can be reviewed later.
Yes.
That's really great for our employees. Thanks.
It is.
Amy, I had a question. As you're trying to gather the data that you feel you need, you just ended, talking about, do you expect that'll be received with open arms by people as you're gathering data, or will there be resistance to that? Seems like we have sometimes a resistant community we're dealing with.
Yeah, so I think anytime we're trying to gather data, people will wonder why. And I think it's all about the communication so that folks understand, what is the purpose of trying to understand what an employee may be doing on their personal time to volunteer and service the community, and how does that intersect with their work in our strategic plan. And so for me, it's just about communicating the why. And I think we can do that, understanding there will always be some who have suspicions about our motives.
Sure. Well, no, that's good. You've done that, and I appreciate it. Any other questions on that topic? Or or any other topics that you want to bring up in the public session that we haven't addressed here yet today? I see none. Great. Thank you to all the people who participated. It was a good meeting, and we had skipped a meeting, a previous meeting. And one thing that Vice Chancellor Dorsey and I think maybe one other person, we were chatting one day about, trying to, follow up on our recent University of Maine system retreat that we had, and bettering our work and bettering our committees and so forth. And I just wanted to let you all know I'm totally open to anything that any of the members of the committee would like to suggest, or administrators would like to suggest for, things we could do different with our committee. I haven't really tried to specifically structure that type of a change effort at this point. I think we had other things were more important to do right now. But I think it is important to always try to evolve, to be better at what you do. So as we go forward, if people have different ideas on how we can meet more regularly or meet less or broaden our assignment, I'm sure that, a discussion with the board would probably bring us to a different beginning point. So whatever people have any suggestions, please, let's openly talk about that and make ourselves better. So with that, I want to thank everybody for a good meeting today, and point out to Vice Chancellor Lowe that we got done about 34 minutes ahead of time. So thanks to everybody. Take care.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will adjourn. Thank